Joining me right now is the founder of the Atlas organization. He is the author of the book, China's Vision of Victory. Jonathan Ward is here. Jonathan, good to have you. Thanks very much for being here. Your assessment of what's going on in corporate America, you've got Apple doing a $275 billion deal with the CCP back in 2016, which gave Apple all these, great easing of regulations in exchange for Apple training Chinese employees to build the iPhone and a similar device so that Apple does well. And yet, no comment about the national security risks in doing so. Your thoughts on corporate America and China?
Hi, Maria. It's great to be here. Well, I think this is the biggest problem that America has, and it's a conversation that we need to have as a nation today. Our corporations have gone into China. They've built into this market for the last 20 or 30 years, and at this point, they've become so, enmeshed in this quagmire. It's a quagmire that basically is profitable, but at the same time, it's causing them to undermine the American interest and to build essentially our primary adversary. So we're building up China's strategic industries, its advanced technologies, and all of that converts ultimately into a power that is going to be used against us militarily, economically, diplomatically. We're in essentially a slow burn economic war with China, but we're barely fighting it right now. Their companies, are acting on behalf of Beijing around the world, but our companies are increasingly tied into Beijing's orbit. So we have to pull them back. We have to have a new relationship with corporate America so that they can do the right thing. We have to bring them back to being the arsenal of democracy as they were in the past, and not to simply chase this, frankly, illusion in the long run of a billion person market. Our technology is going to be used against us, and this is the main conduit. Yeah.
But instead of that, we've got major money managers either managing money for the CCP or advising clients to up their exposure to Chinese companies. Let's be clear. Some of these companies that they are pushing regular investors to invest in their indexes and trading on the OTC market are companies that are tied to the CCP military and will be the companies that produce products, military products, that will effort to overtake the United States as the #1 superpower. What is going on with Wall Street?
Well, Wall Street needs to get the message on China. I mean, right now they look at it as a massive growth market, and we have to pull them out. I mean, you cannot have, American money pouring into our primary strategic adversary. I mean, that's what's happening right now, and it's happening across the board through all sorts of, indexes and various other vehicles. And then, it's very different from, I think, the non-financial corporations that at the end of the day are have Chinese competitors. They're going to have Chinese competitors not only in China but around the world. I mean, Wall Street is directly financing the rise of an enemy state. And that needs to be stopped, honestly, by the U.S. Congress and the U.S. government. I mean, we need to understand that we're funding an arms race against ourselves, and we will lose this bigger contest with China if we continue to pour money into the adversary. What Mark Mobius was saying before about investing in India and Taiwan, I mean, that's the right thing to do. Invest in the free world, invest in the United States, and invest in the counter strategy that we're going to have to do in order to win this economic competition. But Wall Street doesn't think that way. I mean, they're on a very different page, and they don't understand U.S. national security, it seems.
I mean, Ray Dalio wrote a book called Principles, and in it he's talking about the Chinese empire and how cycles happen, and it's likely the Chinese empire's cycles turn. Is that what the issue is? Is that, big investment professionals believe it's China's time and they want to participate in it?
Well, that's just wrong, and I think Dalio's in a league of his own in that regard, and America needs to get to know this man better. I mean, China's vision of victory is essentially his investment thesis. He sees them as a rising empire, and he says that we should get on board with that. I mean, he said that China is a competitor to the United States and that you should have bets on both horses in the race. So, this is a man who believes he's playing both sides. He knows exactly what he's doing. He understands that there's a military competition, a technological competition, and an economic competition, and believes that, we should be invested in our primary adversary. So that's a league of its own. I mean, that shouldn't happen. I mean, he should be, taken to task for this. I think it's very different from a lot of the other Wall Street leaders, and that kind of thinking to explicitly go and knowingly fund America's primary enemy is absolutely horrible.
It's quite extraordinary, Jonathan, and you've written all about it in China's Vision of Victory. We appreciate you joining us. Thanks very much, Jonathan Ward.